Well, it's Monday, July the 13th, and welcome to this Selling Travel TV Travel Talks interview. Joining me today, I'm delighted to say, is Amanda Hills, President of MMGY Hills Balfour. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Steve.
We're going to be talking about the current state of the travel industry, the challenges and the recovery prospects, and there's certainly a lot to talk about on that side of things. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about Hills Balfour. What exactly is an integrated tourism marketing company? What do you do? How do you service your clients? And how do you do it just that little bit differently from your competitors?
Well, hi, Steve, and thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say a massive thank you for having us on the show today. Really exciting. And I think, as you say, really unprecedented times. So, boy, we've all got our jobs cut out for us, haven't we, to get the industry recovered and back on track. So, yeah, first of all, a little bit about Hills Balfour. We set the company up about 21 years ago. And we are an integrated tourism marketing company, which is an agency, which I think is going to become increasingly more important, you know, actually particularly in recovery stage. And what it is as an agency, we offer fully integrated solutions exclusively for the travel and hospitality industry. We think it's really important to be specialists. And we stand apart, I think, from our competitors because we offer the whole gamut of marketing services. So we offer everything from sales and marketing representation. So that's training travel agents, webinars, right the way through to organising sales missions and events when we can all be together, right the way through to public relations, social media, digital solutions, which, as you all know, are increasingly becoming more important. And at the very back end of that, we actually offer creative solutions where we offer strategy and research to our clients. So really everything kind of under one roof. But our mantra is to inspire people to go places through bespoke, targeted and creative storytelling. And we think we're really good at it. So yeah, we're really enjoying it, and we're enjoying working through recovery and making sure we can bring the industry back.
Okay, well, talking of the recovery, I mean, you and I have both been in this industry for a few years. How do you sum up the depth of what, you know, I think most people agree is probably the biggest crisis that the travel industry has ever had to face?
Yeah, I mean, I think really I'm afraid I've been around the block far too long, but I have to say we've seen many things in the travel industry, but this really and truly is unprecedented, isn't it? And I think the speed of which it hit us, that's really the most extraordinary thing. I remember coming back from New Zealand through Hong Kong in early February, never anticipating anything like this could happen. So I think as an industry, we've been uniquely exposed, truly uniquely exposed. You know, we work very closely with WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, and they're talking about a 53% decrease in international visitation globally, 34% decrease in the UK alone in domestic travel, which is obviously significant, with over 12 million jobs lost. So it's the livelihoods that are going to be lost, as well as the lives, I think, that we see, which is going to be extraordinary. And I think what it's meant is, as an industry, we've actually come together with more unity than I think any other industry you know, has ever shown. And I think what it's now going to be about is building back that trust and building back our industry so we can recover.
Sure. I mean, as a company, you represent quite a diverse portfolio of destinations, but you do have a lot of long-haul destinations, Chile, Kenya, Puerto Rico, USA, of course, and many of those have the no entry signs up to UK travellers at the moment. I mean, what impact has it had on your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any tourism business which has been left unscathed really through this. It's had a dramatic impact. I think we've actually been really privileged because we've been working probably at about a 50% pace, and as a company in the UK alone, we've got about 100 staff. So that's meant that we've been working at 50%. So we've been really taking advantage of the Chancellor's incredible furlough scheme, which has been extraordinary. We're now really excited that we've got the flexi furlough scheme. So we've actually got people coming on and sort of swapping out, which has meant that we can share the workloads. And also it means that everybody's got the opportunity to start working again. Because I think for those people that haven't been working, it's really difficult. I think, you know, it's a very difficult mental state to be in. But I have to say, I think as a company, what has been really extraordinary is to see everybody coming together, really pulling together. It's been really very gratifying to see that unity. And I think that's going to make us all stronger as we come out. I think we're anticipating that we're going to be about 10 to 15% smaller by the end of the year. But we're really aiming for 2021 to be back to where we were at least by the end of next year, if not, hopefully midway through the year. That's our plan and that's our forecast. That's what we're aiming for.
Sure. I mean, this pandemic has thrown up PR challenges, to say the least. What have you been doing? How have you been covering this? And have you been doing anything differently during these times?
Yeah, we have. We've been doing a lot differently, actually, which is really interesting. I think, the PR, the marketing agencies, in fact, I think all of us, we need to be quick and agile. We need to be researching what the consumer wants, making sure that we're talking to the consumer with the right messaging at the right time. And what we've really said is you mustn't go dark. Maybe turn the lights off, maybe keep them a little bit dim if you haven't got your marketing spend around, but make sure whatever you do, you keep on talking. And we've had a phenomenal response from the travel trade. We've been doing more webinars, I think, than we've ever done before with huge audiences. So I think actually the travel trade are going to come out more experienced, more knowledgeable. But we've also been doing some really quirky things like Puerto Rico, for example, the home of the pina colada. We've been teaching people how to do cocktails online. And Nashville, which is, Music City, we've actually been getting people to go to live music events, which have been done by huge, incredible artists, and teaching songwriters how you can start writing songs. So some really interesting, really unique things. And I think for those people that haven't gone dark, they've punched way above their weight. They're really now known for the British consumer. Because one thing that we think's happened is the British consumer have not turned off the lights to travel whatsoever. We think, all the way through, they've been dreaming and now they're starting to book. So, we need to keep on communicating. That's been our message. And that we've seen has had huge results.
Sure. I mean, you've obviously had to be creative and innovative and come up with lots of sort of new ways of doing this. Do you think some of these things are going to survive beyond the pandemic? Have we developed things that are just going to last, that are going to be part of the norm going forward, do you think?
Yeah, I do actually. I think it's interesting, and maybe there was a bit of pent-up demand that was going to happen anyway. So aren't we all going to? We now recognise obviously that we can work from home. It's a lot easier, but I think we also realise that we want to be in human contact. So we want to see people. So I think we're going to see the most enormous shift in terms of work business, where people are going to go in maybe 2 or 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week, and I think that's going to give us a different way of looking at things. So I think all of that is really going to play into people's hands. I think in terms of travel, there's anticipation that people actually might be working from home or indeed abroad. So they might be going away for a month's stint to actually work from there. So I think we're going to see some enormous changes. I think the biggest shift of all, though, is us all moving on to digital platforms. So I think it's the growth of the digital, which is going to continue to grow. And we need to make sure that we're really sort of up there and understanding of it. And I think that digital is going to give us that data and that research, so we can really understand everything we do is going to be laser focused on our consumer, on our travel trade, whoever we're talking to and communicating with.
Okay. I mean, in terms of government policy, in the last couple of weeks alone, we've obviously had various changes of direction. We've had a quarantine policy. We've had air bridges, a traffic light system, corridors, none of which really materialised in the way we expected. Now we seem to be left with a straight list of countries that it's deemed safe for the UK to visit. Have you been keeping up okay with these various shifts?
Yeah, it's been pretty hard, hasn't it? Keeping up is really, really quite something else. Yeah, I mean, I actually think that, we may have arrived a bit late to the table in terms of our quarantining and creating of the air bridges, but we could never have done it if we hadn't imposed and put in those measures. I don't think we could have done it. When I look at what the UK Tourism Minister, Nigel Huddleston, who I think is actually, the most progressive and, at the table tourism minister that we've ever had, I think he's really going to be helpful for us as an industry to get back. I think he's moved us way up the agenda. You can really see the government actually understanding the needs of travel and tourism. I think that's going to help us. So I think it's been confusing, but I think it's been needed in order to get the industry back on track. And look what's happened even over the past week or so.
Well, talking of the last week, I mean, we have this list now where there's 74 countries that we can supposedly go to as Brits, but many of them aren't keen to take us at the moment. Do you see this list as a good positive step, or has it just created a bit more confusion?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic step. Actually, I really applaud it, because I think at the end of the day, they're going to be announcing the next stages on the 27th of July. So I think we're going to see even more countries. I think one of the challenges that the government's got is that they're looking at, we used to only look at what the FCO advice was, that foreign advice, whether or not we should go to a country. And now they've actually got to marry that up with what the Public Health Service is saying. So, they are faced with a huge dilemma. And I think we've got to be respectful of the fact that they obviously know things that we don't. And so we have to understand those, we have to be respectful. And I think that way we're going to be respected as a country, and therefore people are going to be wanting to come back in and return to our shores. So I think it's really important to get tourism moving. We had to do this. I also think I really applaud what the airports are doing. If you look at Heathrow, and they formed a massive alliance, they've been doing some incredible work to make sure that, even for example, testing is going to be on the way out of an airport and not necessarily on the way in. So people are sitting on a plane, they're feeling really comfortable all the way through. So I think those initiatives were maybe a little bit painful for us, but if we hadn't done them, we would never get back on track. And now I feel real buoyancy and a real sort of optimism that the industry is on the right pathway to recovery.
I mean, we've always talked, of course, of the UK travel market, but the devolved governments in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have not always followed Westminster's lead. And certainly the list of countries that are okay for English visitors to visit aren't at the moment in sort of unison with some of the other countries. But you work in all four markets, obviously, Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales. How has this complicated your own business model, and what are you saying to your clients who might be a bit confused about this?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really good point. And boy, oh boy, it has been really confusing, isn't it? And we're very much of an agency that works with London South East, but also all the regions across England and across the UK. And I think it has been a little bit confusing, but actually, when you really drill it down, it's really important, because I think you've got to have a regionalised approach to all these things. Hopefully we're not going to have to go into a national lockdown again, but we're going to have to go into regionalised lockdowns. We're going to recognise what those issues are when we hear it from a health perspective. So I think we've got to be respectful. I think one of the things, actually, I was on a forum last week with the Minister of Tourism, and he was saying that actually the media, no offence, Steve, but the media are taking these statements, and actually there's a lot more togetherness really between all the different countries than there actually are in terms of what the media rhetoric really. So I think there's a lot more behind the scenes. I think everyone's got to take a regional approach. We've just got to make sure that we're communicating it correctly and respecting it. Sure.
I mean, where do you see consumer confidence right now at the moment? I mean, is it building? Is it a slow burn, or are people starting to think about travelling and actually, getting on planes at the moment? Where do you assess the state of things?
So yeah, I think that's such an interesting question, because it's also about the moment when you go out to market, isn't it? So we've done quite a lot of studies, research studies throughout this whole process, and our recent 2020 Travel Global Study, which meant that we studied in that we actually did research in the UK, but also globally, said that about 59% of us really want to travel, and also we want to travel to where we booked before. So if we had booked to go to a particular destination, we're really, really consistent. We want to continue. But there's still about 41% of us who are not sure. We're waiting to see what happens. But what we are seeing is there's a different trend which is happening as more and more people are getting back to normal. So when the pubs opened last weekend, that was very significant because people felt a little bit more normalised. I think this weekend's announcement that actually the government are actually encouraging us to go back into the workplace, that's going to be very significant, because the more you can get on a train, if you can get on a train to go to work, you're much more likely to get on a plane to go to your destination. So I'm actually very confident. I think we saw that very early on. About Easter, we launched a campaign with the travel industry called Together in Travel, which was very brand agnostic. It was just to say that we all need to be talking to people about travel. So we reached an incredible reach of about 42 million impressions with this campaign that we went to with various brands and destinations around the world, just to bring everybody together, because actually what we've all got to do is work in unity to bring travel back. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can ensure that consumers feel it's the right thing to do, the more that the consumers are going to come back. So I think the pent-up demand has never been more. I think what we've got to do is just turn that element over and get them to trust the industry again, and make sure that they feel that they're going to be, that if they do go travelling, it's going to be with the right experience.
Do you think there's anything else the travel industry at large can be doing right now to increase that confidence among consumers, or are you happy with the way the industry has reacted as a whole?
Yeah, do you know what? I think the industry's come together brilliantly. I think I've never been more proud to work in the travel and tourism industry. We've worked a lot with all the different associations, the ABTAs and World Travel and Tourism Council, and the Tourism Alliance has been extraordinary. I think the associations have played such an important role in this, and I think they've really brought together people. So no, I think as an industry, we've all really supported each other, and all we want to do is get ourselves back. So that's what we need to do. We need to get out. We need to encourage people to do more marketing. We need to encourage people to talk to the travel trade. There is absolutely, there's going to be no winners in our industry if we don't keep communicating and we don't keep present.
Sure. I saw a comment from you, I think last Monday, where you said the tourism industry is committed to providing a safe travel experience. I mean, that aspect of safety and consumers being confident that when they travel, they will be safe, will be key to this recovery, of course. What are the key things you would point to that the industry are doing in this direction? And do you think the public are aware of what these measures are? And are they convinced, do you think, at the moment, of their effectiveness?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good question. I think trust is key. Clearly, obviously, so many of us are talking about this, but from everything we've done, again, going back to the research, the number one thing that the consumer wants is to see whether or not brands are trustworthy, whether hotels are, whether they're following the right protocol, whether we're doing the right thing, because they won't go out, they won't travel unless they feel really secure and safe. And I think what is really important is everybody loves a badge, they love a stamp. When you look at, ABTA is known for its the whole sort of consumer badge. And the World Travel and Tourism Council have recently come up with something called the Safe Travel Stamp, which is awarded objectively against a really broad series of criteria. And they've actually got now 3,000 companies, 120 destinations which are approved, and they're going through the awards. They're going through quite a strict process to be awarded with the Safe Travel Stamp. And I think that's going to be something which is really significant. But I think going back to your point, so I think trust is incredibly important. We need to make sure that we've got these, objective sort of travel stamps, if you like. And I really applaud what they've done. Now, I think the big next steps, if you like, is going to be educating, making sure that the travel trade understand it, making sure the travel trade know they can have a sticker in their door which says, this particular destination is going to be covered. But actually, very importantly, starting to communicate to the consumer. Because if the consumer doesn't understand it and they don't know about it, it's going to be for nothing. So I think that trust element has really got to be badged up. And I think what WTC are doing is a great initiative. We're actually working with them on creating some campaign concepts. So, watch this space. I think that's going to be a really big and important part of our recovery.
Okay. Well, I think one of the things that we can conclude is that countries aren't going to come back from this crisis all at the same time and at the same pace. The USA obviously is in a bit of a mess at the moment, and the situation there seems to be getting worse by the day. That's a part of the world that Hills Balfour, of course, has always been heavily involved with. And a keynote client of yours right now is Brand USA. Plus, I know you have others like Arizona, Baltimore, Las Vegas, New York, etc. How worried are you specifically about the USA and the length of time it looks like it's going to take before that country comes back from a tourism perspective?
Yeah, I think it is really interesting, and I think our heart goes out to our colleagues in the US. I think it's a really, really tough time for them, as we see on a daily basis. I think they're in the eye of the storm. Do you remember how we felt back at Easter? And everything was going wrong, and it was just, we were in this incredible deep lockdown, and we just didn't feel that we would ever see light at the end of the tunnel. So I think they're really in that kind of place at the moment. So I think it will be a little while before the US comes back, for sure. but I think it's probably earlier than everybody thinks. And I think when travel comes back, it comes back quite quickly. And if you remember how we felt just sort of 2 or 3 months ago, I think to how we are now while we're traveling, I'm going to France myself this afternoon, all of a sudden it comes back very quickly. So what we've been saying is, look, again, it's this sort of don't go dark. I don't know whether you've seen, but New York have done some beautiful billboard advertising around the world, but, particularly in the UK, which just basically says, look, New York misses you. We can't wait to meet you again, and we can't wait to see you. But in the meantime, just go to the website, see what else is going to come up, see what else is coming through, so that you can ensure that you're thinking about it. I think one of the things that is very, very important, and I think the US really recognises this, is whatever we do right now, Steve, it's about booking for 2021. So whether we come back in October, November, whether we're allowed to travel to the US in October, November, December this year, what's really important is we've got to get people remembering why they love the US, and they really love the US. So we've got to really keep on talking about it and making sure that people know about it, so that when they do recover, it'll all come back. I think one of the projects you mentioned, Brand USA, one of the projects we're working on is some really interesting initiatives, but it's all going to be virtual, and that's going to be happening from September onwards. So we're looking forward to working with you and announcing those details of those initiatives in the forthcoming weeks. But we've got to make sure that US is still top of mind, because it's such an amazing destination, as we all know.
Sure. I mean, I'm curious about whether your message to your clients is a sort of one solution fits all, or what you're saying to them does that vary? I mean, you have Vienna, Quebec, Abu Dhabi, etc., very diverse destinations. What are you saying to them?
So we're saying that, and you're absolutely right. I think we've really got to get this right. I think it's very much about bespoke. We're saying timing is everything. Let's have a look at what's happening in your particular destination. How Abu Dhabi is working in terms of, attracting consumers and travel trade versus the US is obviously very different. So you need to be working on all those different elements to make sure that you're communicating, and going back to that trust point, making sure that you're really communicating the right thing. But I think also what we've also been really talking about is what are the unique elements to the different places, and what's actually going to be coming out. So when you look at one of the elements that consumers want, is they want big open spaces. They want they want to feel that they're not worried about the social distancing, maybe sitting in rooms, etc. And when you actually look at what's happened in Africa, and I know this is a place very close to your heart, Steve, but the terrible tragedy that's happening with the wildlife, because they totally depend on tourism. So if we don't start traveling back to Africa, then we're going to see that there's the wildlife is just going to be consumed by the poaching, because travel and tourism is so critical to that environment. So the messaging there really is get back as quickly as possible. We know that the lodges can the lodges that can be created for the consumer, we know that they've got the ability to create that open space immediately. But then also looking at what Vienna, for example, is doing with a really rich luxury arts and culture community, but they're really spilling into the streets. They've got a cafe culture, so you can sit outside, you can enjoy Vienna and everything that it's got to offer by being outside. And the same with Quebec. Look at lovely Montreal with the sort of the cafe community outside as well. So I think what's really important is making sure that you've got the different messaging for the different consumer, and that's why the travel trade has actually never been more important, because the consumer needs the travel agent to really understand what the products are that suits their purpose, that suits their level of anxiety, or what their concerns are, or what their desires are. So I think that's going to be really important going forward.
Sure. Are you doing much with travel agents at the moment in terms of engagement and activities? What are you doing with them?
Yeah, we're doing a lot with travel agents. I think travel agents are really, really important. I think we're doing a lot of webinars, and I think we've seen a real appetite. I think, and also, it's furloughed and unfurloughed. I think one of the things that when the government initially, when it all came out, we weren't sure whether we could talk. But now this whole point of upskilling, if you are furloughed, this is the moment to get that specialist approach to understand a city more than ever before. And so, as I said, we've been doing webinars, we've been doing more communication with travel agents than we've ever done before. And I think we anticipate that's just going to keep on growing, because, the travel trade is going to be incredibly important. If If trust is what we used to go to the travel agent for, now we want to go to the travel agent much, much more than we ever have before. So they need to get those products and they need to understand it. But we also need to give them the tools. We need to make sure that we're updating them regularly.
Sure. I mean, one of the big things among the travel trade, particularly in the annual calendar, is events and trade shows, World Travel Market, overseas trade shows. When do you think they might come back?
I think, as I say, we've got some really great, interesting virtual platforms, which we're going to be releasing soon. And I think a lot of the virtual, I think there's a difference between doing Zoom activity and doing these really, really clever, very engaging virtual platforms, which I think anyway are going to be important going forward, because as we start with this, working from home and office culture, I think there's going to be opportunity that we can dovetail in with those. I think with the physical events, I think they're a way off, if I'm honest, Steve. I don't think we're going to really see very much this side of 21. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's still an awful lot we can do in the meantime while we're building up to do that. And I think the most important thing is we've got to keep on staying engaged, and we've all got to do it together, because we've all got to bring the industry back.
Okay, well, look, finally, let's try and look into our crystal ball a little bit and discuss how this recovery is how long is it going to take? How many of us will be left standing in the industry? And what do you think the travel industry will look like in terms of the players, the main players, and the activities that we're doing, say, this time next year?
Okay, right. That's a really good one, isn't it? The crystal ball. So I believe the industry is going to be smaller. I think we are going to shrink, but I think we're building better. And I think we're going to be a much tighter industry, and we're going to be offering solutions which are going to respond to consumers' needs. So I think we're going to take a lot more, much more social responsibility is going to be very important. Looking at things like social impact, we talked about Africa. We're going to be ensuring that we're traveling to really help consumers. I think so. We will be smaller, but I don't think we're going to be that much smaller than we think. I think perhaps we will have more people going on slow travel. I think people will be going for longer. They'll be taking their time. They'll make sure that they're seeing things off the beaten track, as well as through the main gateways. So I think we're just going to see a massive change in consumer behaviour. I think we're going to be more appreciative. I think we're going to take more holidays. I do think we're going to take the holidays, though. I don't think anybody is ever going to put the holiday on the back burner. I think we respect the need for us to get out and about more than ever. I think this 3 months without travelling has enabled us all to understand why travel is such an important ingredient in part of our whole mix. So I think we're still going to be travelling. So I think what I'd anticipate is that the industry will shrink, probably by about 20 to 25% by the end of this time next year. But I think it's going to be more. It's going to be more about value driven. So I think there's going to be explosions within the luxury industry. I think there's going to be I think there's still going to be big movement in the industry in certain sectors. And I think we just all need to be clever about it, smart about it, and make sure that we're taking those opportunities to redefine what our industry looks like, and make sure it's a better industry, I think, going forward. But yeah, I think we've all got the opportunity. I think it's an exciting time for all of us as marketeers and as people selling into the consumer. So I don't think we're an industry that it's going to go away anytime soon, Steve. I think we just need to make sure that we're tailoring it to the consumer needs.
Sure. Okay. Final question. Have you got any travel plans of your own? Where are you off to when you can?
Absolutely, I really do. So I'm off to France this afternoon, which I can't wait. And then I'm hoping to go to the Caribbean at the end of August, actually. And then I will be on the first plane out to the States, because I have to say I'm one of those people that really misses the US. And then we're also discussing a trip to Africa before the end of the year. So yeah, I'm afraid to say that I'm not very good when I've not been traveling for 3 or 4 months. So I'm certainly planning on getting on planes, and I think it's really important that we all do to bring the industry back. We've got to show, send our Instagram messages, get out there on social media, really get our message across, because if we don't travel, if we don't believe in travel, then we can't expect the consumer to.
Sure. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today, Amanda, and good luck with your travels and good luck with your business.
Thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate it. And the same with you guys and everything you're doing. I think what you're doing is brilliant. Just keep it all up.
Thanks, Amanda. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.